Keeping It Casual MTG recently put out a video that's sort of a Christmas wish list of cool design seeds for future cards that they'd really like to see in Magic. So let's go through all of them and see what is the closest version we can make using Magic rules as we know, make some art for them, give them some names, and, you know, sure, they won't be real, but it's the closest thing we can do as just players, right? First thing they ask for is a monocolored bounce land. Lands that when you play them, you have to pick up another land that you control, but they tap for 2 mana. Generally speaking, they enter tapped and have no other abilities. And they're great. I love these lands. I run them in most of my multicolored decks, and I agree. Having a monocolored one would be really nice. Now, we do have some colorless producing ones, which you can throw into your monocolored decks if that is the issue, but more of these would be awesome. I don't know why, but it made me think about Muraganda. Muraganda is a plane we haven't really been to much, but we were there during Aether Drift, and in it, we got to see kind of the main biomes that all Magic planes have, but we didn't really get to explore them that much. So, using some of the names that we know from the lore, let's make a cycle of legendary lands that represent these places. Now, it doesn't need to be legendary, I just think legendary lands are cool. To make it fit with Magic's design sensibilities of what gets to be a legendary land and what doesn't, let's slap cycling on it too, just so that they don't get stuck in your hand if you only draw copies of this same land. First one I built was Primordial Momotaxos. It's a legendary land. It looks like exactly what you'd expect. I figure being able to pay for the cycling with the existing one makes sense. It's saying, I have this land already in play and I can't play the second copy, but I can pay for the second copy with it. So that makes sense to me. Quickly, here are the other ones on screen now. It's the same idea. It is what it is. With this cycle of legendary lands, I have some other ideas of what I think I would like better than the way these are currently worded, but I wanted to stay as close to the original request as possible. So I didn't, but I do like the idea of them maybe producing completely colorless mana, but they have the land types, so they tap for 1 of their color, or they produce 2 colorless. They still like edge or play tapped and balance a land, so you don't want to be using that mode, but that would be cool. And then they would be like tutorable and stuff, using things that can search for basic land types. I think that would have been actually really fun, but again, not what we're doing for this video, but I think that's a fun idea. The next thing that they ask for is a legendary creature that is all 5 colors, and at this point, I was really enjoying designing with Muraganda in mind, and it seemed like a good excuse to try and do that. My first thought was actually having it be just a vanilla creature that is all 5 colors. That feels pretty appropriate. Makes me think of like Transguild Courier, except it would count as being vanilla for things that matter, which honestly, if we go back to Muraganda, I love the idea of vanilla matters being a thing. I've thought about this a lot. That's not what this video is about though. But I ended up reading some of the story and lore to see if I could find an existing legendary creature that doesn't have a card that would fit this description, and I came across Nathala. So I ended up actually going on my way to design a card for Nathala based on what we see of her, and she's kind of perfect. In the story, we see her as a rogue who's being kind of hired to go steal a vehicle and do some stuff. I kind of skimmed it. But in it, she keeps being like, oh yeah, I was trained by druids. Oh yeah, I know things about wizards, and she just seems like she knows everything. She's like got this jack of all trades energy that I thought fit perfectly for a card that is all colors. The way I did this, of course, was give her 2 hybrid costs, but she always has to be black and is always a rogue. Then on enters, you choose 2 other creature types that she gets to also be. I made a list so that she can't just like be a bear for no reason. She has to actually be like a job class style creature type, and then I made it so that she has all of the abilities of creatures that she shares a type with other than human. She doesn't just get all the abilities of all your humans, that seems boring. It's about learning from the people around her. So if you have a druid, she has that druid's ability, she can tap for mana. If you've got like a warrior that has like, I don't know, passively +2/+2 or something, then she gets +2/+2. But I figured this seems like a really strong abusable ability, so let's limit that to making her just a 1. Next one that's asked for is something that can reorder the stack. And this one I thought was just really fun. We know what the spell is supposed to do. The actual design of the spell is basically done, but how would you word it? And that's something I find really interesting, is just like the structuring of Magic cards. When I do custom Magic, that's one of the most important things to me, is making the card actually read like a Magic card, not just let the player imagine how it would work. Like a lot of cards work in your brain but wouldn't work in the rules of Magic, and so that's something I'm really interested in. And well, I mean, let me know if I did it correctly or not when you see the card, but I think that I nailed it. I don't know. First I thought, well, let's just like copy every spell on the stack and then have them go on the stack in a certain order, and then we exile the originals. But that didn't really feel exactly correct. How do we actually make it so that we change the order that things resolve in? Like, the stack isn't, as far as I could find in the rules, nothing about the actual, like, top of the stack really exists. Like, they talk about putting something on top of the stack, but there's not like an order to the stack as far as the rules are concerned. It's just the last thing that was put on top, right? So instead, I came up with this. Rewrite the Lay is a blue and red 2-mana instant, split second. Choose target spell or ability, then repeat this process until each spell and ability has been chosen at least once. Each spell and ability chosen this way resolves one at a time in the chosen order. So, would this work? Would this wording function? The idea is that you choose the spells, and then in the order you chose them, they resolve. So we're just gonna have them, we don't really reordering the stack, we're just having them resolve immediately in that order. They're still in the same, like, positions on the stack. And because nothing changed, no one changed the, like, targets or anything, you could have, like, a spell resolve before the thing countering it resolves, and then the counter spell would fizzle or whatever. And I gave it split second just to not add any additional weirdness of having us, like, continue to add things to the stack after this was cast, which felt kind of necessary to make it work. Next, they just straight up call out an uncard and say, hey, make this real. I could just have done that and call it a day, but uncards use wording that relies on you, the player, knowing how things work and don't actually function the rules of Magic usually. Take, for example, Super Duper Death Laser, I think it's called. I'll look it up when I edit this. It was the first spell that had, like, this sorcery has trample, and it just, like, did 5 damage to a creature. We have later seen that effect, but it's not worded that way. It has a completely different templating when they made it real. So I don't think that if they made more or less real, they would just reprint it with the same text. I think they would change it. I looked at stuff like Magical Hack to find existing cards that could let us change the text of a spell, either while it's on the stack or once it's a permanent. While there's no precedent for changing a number, there is precedent for changing a color or color word or something similar to that. And so I thought, well, that seems like the templating advice. Not add or subtract a number, but replace a number or number word with a different number or number word of your choice. But your choice has to be either one higher or one lower. Because this is literally just trying to re-template an existing card, there was nothing inventive here. I made some art. I actually made 2 arts for this because I thought I didn't like the first one as much. I thought it was kind of phoned in. And then when I drew the second one, I went, I like this even less. So I went back to the first one. And lastly, they asked for a land that can turn off fogs, basically. Originally, I was gonna make this a legendary land and actually have this be a legendary land cycle, and then I realized that doesn't make as much sense as having the bounce lands be a legendary land cycle, so I did that instead. And this, I made Moonfall Barrens. Again, Muruganda. I didn't really specify it for the other two, but they were also intended to be Muruganda themed. The Ley Wizards are a faction on that plane that we've heard about, but don't really know anything about yet. Anyway, Moonfalls are a common thing on Muruganda, and it seems like the perfect thing that would maybe make it so that all damage goes through. I made it just a colorless land that taps for colors, and for 2, tap and exile this land. Damage can't be prevented this turn. I almost made it only combat damage couldn't be prevented, which is probably more fair. I don't know. And those are the 5 cards, or 9, I guess, because of the cycle. But, yeah, those are the 5 cards. Merry Christmas, keeping it casual. Hope you enjoy the cards. I know they're not real. I know this isn't what you wanted, but I thought it'd be fun, and I'd love to know if you think I worded anything in a way that wouldn't actually function. Have a good night, everyone. Happy New Year.